Hi, I'm Mark with Western Timber Frame, and today we're going to talk about how to patch extreme checking in timbers when that occurs. This is just a cosmetic fix for checking if it is an extreme case. When you have checking, it can occur over the first year of having your timber product. If that happens, you want to wait at least a year before you try to apply this technique. The reason why is as timbers check, they dry faster on the outside than they do on the inside, and they open up and crack. That's the natural process of timbers. As it dries the rest of the way through the center, that gap can actually close back up a little bit. So you want to wait until it is done moving and is completely dried out before you try this process, because anything you fill these cracks with could tend to try to push it back out or hold it from coming back together as it dries the rest of the way through the center of the timbers. As I've mentioned, the larger the timbers are, checking can be greater in bigger timbers and also in cedar timbers. So what we have in front of us here today is a piece of wood that's been in our yard for over a year. This is a piece of cedar, and you can see it's got a huge crack in it. This still, if I was to show you the ends, only goes in about an inch, inch and a half at the most. It's not a structural issue, it's just cosmetic. So here is how we would fix something like this. First of all, you can get this backer rod at probably any of your local hardware stores. It's just a foam rod. They make it in different diameters. This is 3/8, this is 3/4. So you can get it in different diameters depending on what size cracks you're trying to fill. And what this does is just save you from putting a whole lot of caulk. It would be a waste of caulk to try to fill this whole joint up with caulk. So use backer rod to save you some of that caulk, and you can just push it down in there. This piece took a wild curve as it went around a big knot here. So that's just basically what you do. You want to get that in there. You want to get it down so it's not trying to stick up. You know, we're not trying to not have any caulk in here. We're trying to get a good bead of caulk, but just not waste it filling up an inch deep groove. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about the diameter of your backer rod, because you can very easily see this 3/4 is way too big for what we have here. You can just take a knife, cut that down in half, and just whittle it down to whatever you need and fill that in. So if you were going to buy backer rod, I'd rather you bought too big of a piece than too small, because you can very easily cut it down as I just showed you. I'm not going to caulk this whole thing, but the next thing I would do is that, you know, this is on your kit that's been out there in the weather for over a year. You're probably going to want to keep from getting the caulk everywhere on it, so you could just take some blue painter's tape, kind of tape right along the edge of this. This is not a straight joint at all, but you can just kind of bend that around the corners. Just kind of keep from getting your caulk everywhere. You can fold it to get the angles you need. Trim off a piece. Okay. Now, it's kind of showing an extreme curve there and how to deal with that. I would go ahead and put this down on both sides. This will just save you a lot of cleanup after you're done caulking. So anyway, something to that effect. Like I said, we're not going to do the whole entire board here. We're just trying to put down the example. Okay, we've got our backer rod in. We've prepped it with tape. Like I said, we want that backer rod down in there good. We don't want it too close to the surface because we want a good bead of caulk on top of that. This is a textured caulk that is for wood. This is stuff's a little bit harder to find. You can call us and we'll provide you with the color you need. It comes in several different colors. This one goes pretty good with our Rich Cordova, which is the stain that we have on here. It's not a perfect match at the end of the day, It will change color a little bit, lightening up when this dries. I'm getting it in there plenty thick because I'm just going to take a knife and scrape it off when we're done. Now the color's not too critical on this because this will take a stain, and you can just touch it up with your touch-up stain when you're done, so that would take care of any different variation in color between the caulk. I like to use something that's close because I don't want to have, you know, a dark caulk behind a light color and have that kind of showing through or being a little bit harder to cover. But with the solid stains we use, it's usually not an issue to try to cover that. Okay, we've got a bead in there. You can just take some kind of a putty knife and just scrape that excess off. That's basically the concept that we're after, is getting that down into those grooves good. Want a nice bead of caulk on there. Now, if this was a finished product in your home, I would probably spend a little more time getting this perfect, but that gives you the idea. There's a pretty good joint right there. After about 2 hours, this is going to get pretty rubbery to where you could come back and stain over it. So we'll give it some time and we'll come back and show you what it looks like when we take the tape off, and then we'll stain it up. All right, we've given this caulk some time to dry, so at this point we would just come and take the blue tape off, and we've got a nice clean edge there. We haven't got tape all over, or we haven't got caulk all over our timbers. And then you can see, I don't know if you can tell at that angle, but this color isn't exact as it dried. Not a big deal. At that point, you can just take the touch-up stain that comes with it and just stain that. Blend that in. And there you go. When that dries, that stain dries, that'll be the same color. And you can still see a hint of a joint there from the checking, but it's certainly better looking than it was with that big checking gap across it. So that is our process. That's how we would handle extreme checking for a cosmetic fix on that. Again, the biggest concern people have is they think this is a structural issue, and it's not. To me, if this was my job, I would leave the checking and just stain down in it. I think it adds character to the timbers to have these deep cracks and lines, and I would just get the stain down in there and seal it up. But if you don't like that look and it bothers you, that's how you can fix it. Thanks.